We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
And now, Reality Rants with Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here, and I'm just asking questions, and I'm asking a big question tonight. Why in the world have we allowed Guantanamo Bay and other black sites not only to continue to exist, but to be legitimized? This is a very, 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 very bad thing on a multitude of levels. And I've discussed it at length before, and that's why I'm extremely upset, disappointed, and concerned that Guantanamo Bay is now open for business. And this is where we're supposedly going to house 30,000 of these migrants. And it's being positioned as the worst of the worst, the criminals. I'm going to get into why I don't like that, period. We're going to play Trump and what he says about it. But unconstitutional, unaccountable black sites, even for those who are not American citizens, do us no favors. They do us no favors. They play into this idea that, number one, the public does not deserve to know what is going on, and it creates this atmosphere of lunacy in many regards that somehow, somewhat way, the really bad guys are there. Really? When I think of Guantanamo Bay or Abu Ghraib or any of these black sites, I think of abuse of power. I think of documented torture. I think of unspeakable crimes against goat farmers and their children. And then let's go to what they sell us on. They sell us on 9/11, right? That's why Gitmo and all these other places existed as black sites in the first place. 9/11 has been deconstructed as an international intelligence operation by myself and others on so many levels. And to think that you would want a system where you have, again, unaccountable military hearings for the people you accuse of 9/11 that can last 2+ decades is another huge cause for concern. Now, we're going to play Trump. I'm also going to talk about his anti-Semitism bill and deporting students who are non-U.S. citizens who supposedly are now Hamas supporters. In fact, just had a great conversation with Dan Novalek, the Case for Palestine author. We posted that on YouTube and on the other platforms out there. So you can go watch that. Hey, again, we have 70,000 subscribers. To the premiere of that about an hour and a half ago, that video, I don't think, at least I stayed for at least half the premiere. We didn't break 50 live viewers. Right now we're at 45. We're trying out here, folks. So I would encourage people to check that interview out, to expand upon this Palestinian question and foreign policy in general with this administration. But here's the thing. You know, I'm a pragmatic guy, hands down. I like Kristi Noem, all right? The way I really got to know Kristi Noem and like her was the fact that she was one of the few places that was, speaking out and standing up to the COVID 1984 nightmare. I went to South Dakota during it. There was still the corporate authoritarianism, just like there was in Florida too, by the way. But traveling the country, gained a lot of respect for her. I don't want Homeland Security, right? But if you're going to put somebody in charge of it and its main motivation is going to be the mass deportation of what was an open door enablement policy on a level that most people can't understand. And just real quick, I'm just going to have this quick conversation with you because, you know, again, my niece is getting older. She's 14 now. And we had the conversation in the car yesterday while we're driving. She said she had to pick a news story for class because I was actually playing my premiere from yesterday and trying to see what was going on in the chat. And she doesn't really know a lot of what I do. And she goes, I heard Donald Trump is deporting people and people in churches, schools, and hospitals. And I said, that's not what's happening. We need to stop. And then I explained to her that, yes, those three places that could absolutely happen, but everybody that's here is illegal, and it's anywhere in the country. And I go, on top of that, I go, during the Biden administration, they not only opened up the border, but they flew them around into cities and then housed them. And she's like, I didn't even tell her about the credit card stuff. Right? And she looked at me like she couldn't believe that had happened. And I go, some of these people who are not citizens have actually been convicted of crimes in this country and they get to stay. And she looks at me again and she doesn't know that happened. And then I mentioned a name that she knew, Dr. Phil. And I told her about the Dr. Phil confrontation. She couldn't believe it had gone on. And, you know, I'm glad I got to alter that part of the perception because I said to her, look, most people just want to come here and live and do well for themselves. I go, but we have an insane welfare system. And we also have a system that exploits people. I'm not here to rail against people that have come to this country, for a better life. But again, you came here illegally. I do want the deportations. Like, if we are going to keep some people, who's been paying taxes, right? And who's, willing to do what every other naturalized citizen in this country used to do, which is just take the test, right? So if you've been here 20 plus years, you've been paying into the system, hopefully those aren't who they're going after. But again, I like the policy. I don't like Gitmo. I wouldn't like one of those people to end up there for any reason. Now, I think they're going to do the criminals, and that's fine. I'm going to let Trump speak for himself before we get to everything else. And yes, I'm aware of the breaking news with the Black Hawk and American Airlines in Washington, D.C. Buckle up. 2025 is going to be a wild year. We're almost 1 month down, right? Think about just how much everything has just changed in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to give a brief just question about that, what we know, what we don't know, what's possible there towards the end of the broadcast. Thumbs it up, subscribe, share. Guys, I cannot do this without you. The Buy Me a Coffee link is down below. Also the PayPal. But I do want to say this. I did just add a couple crypto addresses, my Ethereum address and my BTC address. And I did that because, I've been talking about it for a while, but just out of the blue, someone gave a donation to my Ethereum address in USDC. I want to thank them very much. I must have had it posted on an older video or I must have given it to them in the past, but you're keeping real independent media going, right? You know, I want to believe that Patriot.tv is going to survive. I don't know. It's tough out here. You know, and we're going to get into that with Trump getting like a sort of win from Facebook, kind of Zuckerberg bending the knee. It's going to be another jam-packed broadcast, as it always is. With that being said, let's hear what Donnie T has to say about Gitmo.
Today, I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo. This will double our capacity immediately, right? And tough. That's a tough place to get out of. Today's signings bring us one step closer to eradicating the scourge of migrant crime in our communities once and for all. And it was just
Listen, it's a purely bad idea. I want them deported. Let's say they are the worst of the worst, and that you're worried that the other country, like they've committed a heinous crime here, like murder. No, okay, let's put them in a supermax prison, the toughest one out there. If we need to, let's build some Alcatraz styles off the coastline of our cities. Not Guantanamo Bay at the end where we have legitimately tortured people. I want accountability. These are still human beings, right? And we have to be really careful with who they say is in Gitmo and why. And this is why in 2008, I talk about it all the time. But I think it's hard to believe that in 3 years, 2008 will be 20 years ago. But people were so repulsed and disgusted with what they knew about what was going on there that every single Democratic nominee said they were closing it. Barack Starr, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, John Edwards, every single one of these establishment puppets. Every one. Then you get into the QAnon nonsense era. And somehow the people who think they're waking up, right, think it's a good thing. And they think that Julian Assange is safe there, and they think that John McCain has been executed in a military tribunal. And, you know, the lock her up tones of 2016 with Hillary Clinton had Gitmo written all over them. Why legitimize, again, an unaccountable, unconstitutional torture factory? Get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry. No mas. Just can't do it. So, you know, we're going to move on to this story right here. Trump administration to cancel student visas of pro-Palestinian protesters. Now, that bothers me, right? Pro-Palestinian protesters. We got this whole anti-Semite thing going. But Trump orders to review, identify, punish, and deport anti-Semites, including students on visas. Now, that's kind of a deceptive headline as well, because as far as I know, no American American-born citizen is being kicked out from anti-Semitism. But we don't need more speech laws, okay? And I've already heard this term, if you're pro-Palestine, then you're pro-Hamas. That's not a real thing. Like, the simplicity of these arguments are ridiculous. And if we're going to have visas for students that are from foreign countries, which we do, if they want to take part in free speech, what's the problem? One of these kids causes violence, causes some kind of significant physical damage to something, property damage, hurt somebody physically. I'm sick of this feelings thing. Look, even people that I don't like and say things I don't like get to say them in this country. Period. Hate speech laws, get out of here with that trash. You know, I'm really hoping that Trump doesn't go through with what he said earlier. I hope it was rhetoric, that he's going to criminalize burning the American flag in this country. If it's your American flag, you do what you want with it. If it's somebody else's, just like anything else, if you cause damage to that, you've caused property damage to somebody else, and you can be prosecuted. It's a no-brainer. It's a really good system we have, you know, if it's actually followed that way. Destiny Resendez, who has some of the best thread work on Twitter, has a little mini thread here. Trump signing the additional measures to combat anti-Semitism today, which expands on his previous EO 13899 he signed on December 11th, 2019. Directing federal agencies to identify and use all available legal tools to combat anti-Semitism, requiring federal departments to submit detailed reports within 60 days on measures taken to combat anti-Semitism, including pending administrative complaints and legal action related to AS in educational institutions since October 7th. Again, we should be able to question large events like October 7th. In fact, I discussed that with Dan Novalek. U.S. Special Forces were on the ground in Israel running drills that we don't know about on October 7th. Palestine does not have an air force. Many people now have come forward with evidence that at least a year, maybe 2 years ahead of this, there were warnings. Ben Swan has done some very good work that make things look very suspicious. U.S. Special Forces is sent more after October 7th, and the Iron Dome malfunctions that day in a way that it really never has before. And I've seen people say, oh, well, maybe they're bull snotting on the Iron Dome. Sure worked when Iran was tossing the missiles in, you know? And I realize there's a lot geopolitically at play there, but come on, give me a break. So, look, anybody can look into that too. I think that's a bad move on this administration as well. We want to push back against that. A lot of great things have happened. I'll tell you that this Gitmo thing is the first like real kick in the gut, turns me sour kind of thing. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I expected the foreign policy to kind of go down as it would. I like the deportation. I'm all for that. I'm for pretty much everything that they've done with the border issue and deportation, other than this move. This is a bad news Brown move. So before we get into this Boeing thing really quickly, and by the way, thumbs it up, subscribe, share. Remember, I can't do it without you, so please share the links. Check out the documentary films for free. Trump wins $25 million from Meta for suspending his account after January 6th. So you remember when I was, and again, it's a real issue, they deplatformed the president of the United States. I mean, we've gone through some wild times. Wild. They cut him off on election night. They banned him from social media. He just won $25 million. Yet, we have a system, what is it, Section 203 of that bill that protects them from lawsuits from like little guys. So, just like I exposed that it's not a meritocracy on X, that YouTube and Google, on this, we show the AI overview. By the way, if you watch that broadcast where AI tells you how NASA and DARPA were involved in the initial funding of the founding of Google and their search algorithm, right? I did that today on my recording of Making Sense of the Madness with Zach Payne. Great episode. You'll get to see it tomorrow. And all of a sudden, it didn't want to give the AI overview. We did it live with the help of O'Reilly, of course.
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Astounding results. So yeah, I encourage you to watch that one. I know we're having a little bit of fun here, but it's really important to point that out because the restrictions on narratives, information is still very much in play. Great that Trump had a win. How do the rest of us get a win? For instance, I was talking crypto earlier. I was talking also the survival of Patriot TV. I'm worried about Rockfin. If you're watching this on Rockfin, I accidentally put the wrong thumbnail and maybe ruined it, but we'll fix all that. The Ray token is at the lowest it has been at least 5 years. Man, almost since the start of this. Like, I remember when it first started, it was like around 30-something cents. Maybe it dipped down to the 20s, whatever. And it's had its ups and downs, but it's really maintained around $1 for a while. It's below 50 cents now. That's not a good look for a freedom of speech platform. I look at BitChute and their financial troubles. It's not easy out there. So, again, if you can support us, great. There is one thing that I did want to get to before we get to the plane thing, and this is another reason I was hoping Trump would de-escalate this situation with Palestine and Israel. Again, you want to know what's currently going on there. Last American Vagabond does some really great work. Gray Zone does some really great work. But I keep talking about how I don't want to see dead kids in my damn feed anymore. I'm so sick of seeing dead fucking kids in my feed. I didn't play this video. I don't want to see this kid's face. It's out there. I didn't retweet it. I didn't like it. This is a child outside his home. He just gets shot. It's happening every day. It's a child. So, I don't really have much more to say. I've seen some pretty horrific things in my feed. What I'm looking at right here, even just imagining it, is tame in comparison. But I want it to stop. I think most of us that have looked at that issue, we want it to stop. So, for those that don't know, I'm just going to quickly go over this. Apparently, 64 were on board. They're saying that a few people have maybe been pulled from the river. There's a very, very, very blurry video out there. I would imagine there's going to be more. It's right in Washington, D.C., into the Potomac, man. I can't tell you how many times I've been in that area. I've also flown into that area, flown out of that area. To me, I don't know, but this seems purposeful. It's a Black Hawk helicopter. The idea that this is accidental doesn't seem to fly with me. And I just posted this. It's just food for thought. Lockheed Martin demonstrated this remote Black Hawk technology in D.C. just a couple months ago, right? Or 2 weeks before the 2024 election. Yeah, not even. Well, yeah, I guess a couple months ago. Here's in October. Right there. Okay? So, I'm not from 300 miles away, by the way. So, who's on the plane, who's controlling the Black Hawk, who's supposed to be in the Black Hawk, who's in the Black Hawk, a lot of questions there, right? A lot of weird and wild stuff here already in 2025. That's probably something, depending on the information we get, we'll do a video on. Really, YouTube is not the platform where I could talk about the Bobby Kennedy hearings. Watched a lot of that today. We may get into that after the confirmation votes. See if he makes it through. I think he is going to make it through, but we will see from there. Thumbs it up, subscribe, share, ring that bell. Check out the alternate platforms. Please check out all the documentary films. If you can, buy me a coffee, $5, $10, $15. It means the world to me. It supports this broadcast. There are also alternative methods, PayPal, Bitcoin, and Ethereum, and of course all the tokens that go with it. The address is down below. Guys, everything I talked about, they were not left or right issues. They are baseline right and wrong, freedom of speech, freedom of humanity issues. All right? Let's understand that now more than ever, as things accelerate and people continue to try to divide us, because I'm just not down like a clown Charlie Brown. I want nothing but love. So once again, I love you guys, and we'll see you on the flip side.